And we're live for part two of Healing the Inner Child. So welcome to you. Welcome to this Healing Live talk between Amari Dior at Body Armor Wellness and myself. While we're waiting for Amari, welcome Marcel, welcome Lauren. I hope I'm pronouncing these names well and correctly. Welcome to you. Today is again part two. Last week we talked about why healing the inner child. What's the point? We talked about what does healing mean? What is the inner child, and so on and so forth. And we're going to continue this conversation, which can be a several weeks class. If there are any questions or reflections here, please feel free to pop them in the chat. I know some of you were here last week, and thank you for coming back. And if you're all ready, well, take a couple of breaths. You're here, we're here. Welcome, Madeleine. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us here for part two of this conversation on healing the inner child. Here is Amari. Before we get into this conversation. And
hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Doing well. What about you?
I'm good. Thank you for asking. I'm just typing in the chat here for our title, for our audience. Well, really, our other members of the talk circle. You guys are part of it too. Okay, here we go.
Healing the inner child, part two. Let me pin that comment here. And here we are. Again, welcome back for part two. Brief introduction. Amari, would you like to introduce yourself briefly?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Amari. I am a chronic pain relief coach. I'm a life coach and health coach that specializes in helping people with chronic pain adopt healthy, holistic techniques to help them relieve pain and calm the nervous system. Really excited to be here. Pierre, do you want to take it up?
And I'm Pierre-Etienne Vanier, mind body practitioner, founder of the Healing Studio Online. I specialize in stress management, trauma recovery, using mind-body practices. It's all about bringing the nervous system back into balance, baby. That's what it is. Tapping into this innate healing ability. What a powerful thing. What a remarkable bodies we have here. And just as a reminder, that process requires to connect to who? To the inner child.
Yes.
So maybe shall we take a step back, take a few moments to reflect on our conversation last week? And here it's an invitation to you, to myself, to the people here who are joining us for part two. We're here last week. Feel free to share any comments, reflections, or questions as to anything that stayed with you, that was impactful, that was challenging. Amari, what about yourself?
Yeah. So last week, something that really stuck with me is just in the way that the inner child still plays a huge part in the way that we live our lives every single day as adults. And one of the biggest things for me in understanding this and understanding where I need to heal, and also having grace with giving myself grace and having patience with myself when the inner child feels unsafe and screams and takes over my reactions, is just to understand that, hey, this coping mechanism that I am using right now is something that I've learned from a very young age when I felt unsafe. And if I can go back and unfreeze time, like you mentioned last week, if I can unfreeze time, go back and mend that brokenness, mend somewhere where I felt unsafe, or I felt unheard, or I didn't feel like my authenticity was accepted, then I could help myself today as an adult. and I can help myself realize, hey, right now I'm an adult. I have control over this situation. I have techniques now that I know what to do, and I'm safe now, and I can move forward. And I have the ability to speak in a way that I can pause on a conversation if I
Mm.
need to. I can go reclaim safety somewhere else if I need to, or I can breathe, take hold of the conversation, and be present and explain where I'm coming from without feeling like, um, without feeling unsafe or in danger.
See, I resonated with the, oh, I'm safe now, because that's such a powerful statement. And I'll speak for myself, for my own healing, and I must say, with the thousands of people I've worked with, coming to this place at times, which sometimes was not even was not even considered. Like, what do you mean safe? And then you push it further, as in, like, what do you mean safe from within?
Mm,
So it's not about being obnoxious and pretending that, oh, everything around me here is safe, because I've had so many clients whose life was quote unquote safe, and yet this alarm was constantly on. And
right.
so developing that safety from within, which again is for us the gateway to, as far as I see it, the gateway to healing, right? If I'm not safe, why would my body spend energy in a restful, restorative
Yeah.
state? No,
No.
it's gonna stay in fight, fight, freeze. I'm gonna block. I'm gonna protect. I'm gonna
Yeah.
punch. I'm gonna kick. I'm gonna yell. I'm gonna do whatever I need to do. And there's a time for that, and there's a place for that. And yet, let's acknowledge that a lot of the time we do this, and this is not saving our life. We really just here responding based on, like, activation that is still there, but it's still there because it has not been processed, and it has not been given an opportunity to be completed.
Right.
And so here I'm resonating what you're saying, because I want to remind all of us here that of that concept of completion of that cycle. And it's all about cycles. I'm not going to get too philosophical around it about it, but yet understand that all these cycles here, for us, it's not healing is not a linear process. It is a cyclical process. All right, or maybe more of a cyclical process, like this, or whatever you want to, in whatever way you want to imagine it. But understand that here, when I'm able to feel that safety within and tell my body there's no need to fight, then that's when the body is saying, okay, then let's rest, let's heal, let's stop attacking. How many people are dealing with, like, autoimmune disorders, or and where really the body is attacking itself, themselves. Like, what does that mean here, right? When
Mm,
you take a moment to sit with love and compassion for yourself, and when my body is attacking me, what's happening?
right.
And I'm saying that with compassion, because I work with a lot of people who are dealing with, whew, like, serious health challenges, diagnoses that are putting you in front of your own mortality, that are reminding you, like, oh, this, I shouldn't take life for granted here.
Yeah.
And yet, what a powerful kick in the butt for when the body is like, I'm done with that shit. This is not happening. We can't do this. This is not sustainable,
Yeah.
right? Am I making sense here?
You make total sense, of course. Yeah. Yeah, and that's why I'm so excited to continue this conversation today, as far as um, how we can acknowledge that inner child, identify where there's the cycle that's been broken, and to also adopt these healthy techniques in the moment, that can reclaim that inner safety. That's beautiful. Madeline, you've said something. Let's see. Knowing that safety or anything ultimately is not something external, but exists most profoundly internally. Sustainable practices, yes. Thank you, Madeline.
and yet how many of us are seeking everything, all the answers and everything we need, from other people,
Yeah, that's
and,
very,
and I'll include myself in that at times, seeking the validation, the support, the love, which obviously is much needed. I wish to receive love. But then what if I'm not giving this to myself?
mm,
How can I pretend that, I'm I'm going to truly accept it, as opposed to
yeah,
I'm just going to give an opportunity for the other person to do their thing, and I'm just in the I'm not really receiving. So yeah,
yeah, yeah.
from within.
And that just reminds me, like in my healing journey, like when chronic pain first started for me, my the biggest time when I was in a roller coaster with my healing journey, like complete roller coaster, out of control. I was not in the conductor's seat. Was when I was seeking validation and love and support from other people, um, and this even self confidence. I was asking for it from other people, and I didn't have the ability at the time. I didn't have the knowledge. I wasn't in a safe space, my nervous system, to look within and identify, oh, I need this from myself. And it took a very long time for me to recognize that, and I had to kind of get slapped in the face with the facts and the truth that the instability that you have, uh, the instability that I have in my healing journey was because I was looking outside for
Mm.
validation, support, and trust, and love, and confidence, etc. And instead, when I decided to look within and say, no, I need to start doing certain practices and mantras, and I need to reclaim my spirituality, and I need to get closer to God, and I need to learn how to love myself, whether I'm in pain or not, whether I'm in physical pain, emotional pain, mental pain, wherever it is. I had to look within first, and I had to adopt certain habits. And that's when I started becoming stable. That's when I was able to manage. That's when I was able to reclaim safety. And that's when my life changed for the better, you know?
I'm reclaiming the safety, and to quote somebody I worked with this week, who's been through some like very invasive treatments and surgeries and blah blah blah. The conversation was around feeling safe enough to feel the fear.
Ah,
And that was, that was such a beautiful reminder, because I think many of us here are or seeking well, I want to feel the peace, I want to feel the safety, I want to feel all of these things, and obviously I'm speaking of myself, right? This, I want to feel that, and yet I've got to know that actually for me to go there, let me feel safe enough to actually feel that fear. And we speak of inner child. I've mentioned last week, being quite afraid, growing up, and not feeling safe enough to express my needs, to express my emotions, right? We I think, French culture is pretty stuck up, and there's a it's not an excuse, but it's just like a, keep it buried deep in there. There's a cultural element to it, and yet going back here to the safety was like, how can I feel safe enough right now to actually connect to the fear of that little Pierre Etienne had when, fill the blank,
yeah.
to feel and then for me, a lot of the work was and is, because I feel like that's an ongoing process for me to feel safe enough to feel these experiences, these sensations, these emotions that are labeled as bad or counterproductive by society, right? Just
Mm.
keep it up, be positive.
Mhm.
all that bullshit. When truly there's so much healing, as we've discussed before, in holding that pain. And so for me, having the strength and the safety to connect to that little one who's scared shitless to express his needs, what a beautiful gift for me
Mhm.
to go there. And I must say, as a both for myself, as somebody who's walking that path and trying to heal, and also guiding people, so many people in into these experiences, into these journeys. I must say, I think the most touching thing for me to do, where we really, my, I remember some experiences of people really giving themselves permission to connect to their inner child.
Mm.
What a beautiful, touching experience. Because that little child, and I know, I'm remembering a brother who's, and the image that that little child was basically, in the basement, locked up and
Mm.
scared. And when you feel safe enough to say, you know what, this stops now, and you go down the basement and you take that little child by the hands, and you hug that little child and you tell him that's okay, worst is over, and now, we're going out. Whew, like this is beautiful, beautiful moments when then there is a sense of completion.
Yeah.
That's when the nervous system says, ah, right, I don't have, it's okay to feel that. It's okay to feel that fear. It's okay to feel this. And because right now I'm actually feeling safe enough to feel it, oftentimes what's going to happen, there's going to be a deep exhale, there's going to be some vibrations in the body, there's
Yeah.
something's going to happen. And this is when I'm like, oh wow, that's why I started with the body, so amazing, because the
Yeah.
moment you connect to that, right, the body is like, just,
Yeah.
hold my beer, I got this.
Yeah.
Which too many of us forget. I think remembering that ability for us to process that is important. And so, to go to what you're talking about in terms of steps, and I don't know if there's a step of protocol, but most certainly, I think being able to connect to these emotions, to have an awareness
Hmm.
of when that little one comes through. Uh,
Oh, yeah.
in what relationships do you show up as an adult? Which relationships, or when do you show up as a 5-year-old, 10-year-old, 15-year-old? Because I've mentioned myself showing up at times, in my relationship with my wife. I'm not showing up as a 40-something-year-old. At
Mm-hmm.
times, it very much sounds like a 13, 14,
Yeah.
angry teenager, and sometimes just even smaller than that, right? And having the awareness to say, oh, wait, there's, there's something else here. There's somebody else who needs to be held. And in
Yeah.
that moment, that awareness, I feel like is the first step, as far as I can see it.
Absolutely. It really is because even thinking um, about finding that awareness and like you said in some certain conversations with your spouse and with me for the longest time, before I dove deeper and started acknowledging my inner child, was I would go from there was a disagreement, whatever that fact was or whatever the opinion was, and then it would skyrocket into a fight. And then after I would say everything that I need to say, soup, like closed up throat, like burning head, and like just flustered with emotion. Then I would just shut down into tears. And
Mm.
it was like this deep skyrocket and then just crash landing. And for the longest time I thought, I'm just being passionate, and I was recognizing as like passion and the right to be mad, and I was pointing the finger. And when I finally slowed down and when chronic pain came into my life and kicked me in the butt and told me, no, it's not just physical, you need to work on the biopsychosocial side of yourself, I started to recognize that no, I'm fighting because I feel unsafe, and I'm feeling unsafe because this period in my life reminds me of another period that has not been healed. And when I started to look within and say, I shouldn't be fighting. Uh, it shouldn't be like a fight or flight when I feel safe in my own home, when I feel safe in my relationship. It's
Mhm.
not a fight against him. It's me and him tackling this opinion or whatever the experience is together. But that took me a very long time to just recognize that my coping mechanism wasn't normal. And for a very long time, if I would get upset, that was that like up, down, crash landing, that would be the way I would go. And finally, what a breath of fresh air to just understand that ah, I'm not mad. I'm just really hurt and scared that what happened back then is going to happen right now. And that that honesty with myself was the beginning. That acknowledgement with myself was the beginning of my true healing, and was the beginning of me going deeper and understanding who I am, why I am the way I am, and what healing needs to be done, and how evolving I can be.
And but if I may just comment briefly, your response was normal,
For
right?
me, it was
Right. No,
trained.
but it may not be adaptive, right? It may not be the best response or the response
Right.
that you wanted in that particular situation. But I'm saying that to you, and I'm saying that to everybody who's listening, and we're saying, ah, shit, my response is, is abnormal. No, your response is not abnormal. Your response is normal based on the experiences that you've had and all the stress and all these mechanisms that have been put in place by your
Yeah.
body, thinking that that's the best way to respond to this situation.
Yeah.
And the moment we're about to go meta, we're able to take a step back. We're able to understand that, oh wow, why am I snapping? Why am I snapping at my friend, my partner, my kid right now? They just said a normal comment, and then I start snapping. I think for us to be able to take a step back and say, there is something there. There's
Yeah.
something there that is normal, and yet in that moment, right? Again, to quote in Kevin Dover from Lumos Transform, it's well intentioned, but the timing is off. That should
Absolutely.
that should have happened years ago,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, and it's just like what I was saying last week as far as these coping mechanism, that like that particular coping mechanism that I learned from very young age, it is something that has been trained in my head and my nervous system for years, for decades. And
Right.
so it's like I was saying last week, it's like driving a car to the same place every day for years. Sometimes we just check out and it's automatic, it's an automatic function. And with that response, for me, subconscious brain, it was just like, this is what we did
Right.
to reclaim safety, and this is what worked to survive. And it took a lot for me to pause, like you said, and take a step back and break that cycle and just say, whoa, this might not be the best coping mechanism for me right now, right here.
Yeah.
Let me observe my environment. Let me do some scanning around the room. Let me scan the person that I'm speaking to. Let me scan myself. What's going on in my body physically? What are the thoughts that are going on in my head? What are the emotions that are connected to everything? How is my breath? Am I shallow? Am I deeply breathing? What's everything that's going on? But to do that, to be able to get to that place, you're right. The first step is always just acknowledging, hey, this is what's really happening right here. And this is where I'm going back to.
And the last thing I want to mention here, Madeleine mentioned the concept of shame, which I've maybe should be in itself be the topic for next week. But that's why I wanted to remind you, me, and everybody watching here that all of these experiences, these inner experiences, all these responses that I used to judge as, you know, oh, I'm being an asshole, or I'm not standing up for myself, blah blah blah, whatever version of self-criticism it may be. In that moment here, understanding that normalizing these responses, I think, is quite crucial. Oh, let me see. Did we drop here? Can you guys still hear me? Okay. You guys can still hear me. All right. I'm already out. So let's remember here, and we'll do that. We'll do that in closing, right? And maybe Amari will be able to join back or not. We're wrapping it up here. For anybody who is criticizing, judging your own response, and I've mentioned the example of me snapping with my wife or my kids, or not standing up for myself, or not being able to express my needs, not having the capacity to handle what's going to happen if I express my needs, because again, there's been patterns put in place, and yet these patterns may not be helpful anymore. They're well oiled, right? This is how you've been responding all the time, but they're not helpful anymore. And so I think an important step, and we'll talk about how to process that next week. Potentially, I think there should be a part 3 to that conversation. First, being able to have an awareness of these patterns, an awareness that if I'm acting up right now, whatever that means to you, right? If you're overly aggressive, or if you're just completely submissive, or knowing that, hey, this doesn't make sense, this is not how I'd like to respond, being able to acknowledge it and to say, okay, let me normalize that based on everything I've been through. Because the moment you let go of that judgment, the moment you let go of that self-criticism, what happens? Well, there's less activation, right? There's a little bit more space.
Yeah.
A little bit more space for you to start that conversation, to say, oh, maybe I should be expressing my need right now. And I know, and we'll talk into more details next week about like what that sounds like and how to do this. But here, it's just an invitation to everybody here and to myself to just be gentle. That little one inside, just want to feel safe and feel loved. And the moment we're able to do this, miracles happen.
The gentleness, that is just such a key word. And that gentleness is exactly what led me to acknowledge and to be non-judgmental and honest with myself, and just say, all right, this is a point where I need to love myself and console myself, and not a place to be frustrated. Thank you so much, Pierre. I'm sorry about the the disconnection, but I'm glad I got back on. I definitely think we should do this in a part 3 next week.
Let's do part 3 next week. Next week let's talk about shame. Let's talk about, the different sides of that spectrum, of that activation, and kind of what it means. What does it look like when we engage in that process of regulating the nervous system, of restoring safety, of starting to feel what we need to feel? Obviously, we all, beautiful, unique snowflakes. So we'll just, try to bring it home, maybe to personal experiences. But I think there's also a lot for us to learn when we better understand our body, our nervous system, and that there are many paths to heal. And so we'll talk about that next week. Reminder once again, for those of you who are seeking and searching for a place to feel, to heal, to talk, to feel supported, to feel loved, find yourself a space. The Healing Studio Online, we are offering classes, particularly for people dealing with cancer, as well as men's circles, together with other classes. check out the schedule. Mary, you'd like to mention something about your
Yeah.
circle?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Pierre. So you can find me at Body and More Wellness. That's the Instagram handle, and on there you can click the link in my bio. Every Tuesday night, I host a chronic pain community gathering. It's a support group for people with chronic pain to be seen, heard, and supported without any judgment, and just completely an empathetic circle where we can talk, we can share, we can reflect, and we can appreciate certain things where, that reminds me, that helped me last time reduce pain. That reminds me, that helped me bring some joy back into my life. So join. Tonight we'll be joining on Zoom at 7 p.m. I hope y'all can be there. It's completely free. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next Tuesday
Thank you,
morning.
everybody. Remember to follow us, so we'll continue this conversation together very soon. Have a blessed
Yeah.
day, everybody. Take
Share
care.
this
And
video with anyone
much love.
that's healing right now as well, or in their journey. We would love to help out. Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody. Be well.